So I just invite you, Brittni, just to talk a little bit until I start sharing my screen.
Hey, hello everybody. I'm just gonna talk a little bit. So we really enjoyed the little breakout room session there. You kind of get thrown in with a couple of random people and just go for it, right? I liked that. It's a little bit shocking at first, but you get used to it. I'm really excited about doing a little presentation with you guys today. I'm also going to do a sort of mini workshop. So I'm going to be talking not actually specifically about design sprints necessarily, but I will be talking about how to use the branding and content in order to build a bit of a name for yourself, build a bit of an audience, and therefore be able to sell much easier, I'll tell you, to clients and or if you're, whatever it is that you're selling. So that's kind of the goal that I have today. And then the workshop that I'm going to do is actually going to help you guys come up with a few ideas for content, strategic ideas for content that will perform well and actually, reach the audience that you want to reach. So that's kind of what I want to do today. I was running a workshop all day today, so it might get goofy. I'm not going to lie to you. I might go a little bit crazy, but I think I'm excited about what that entails and just seeing, sometimes you have to push your limits, you gotta just,
wonderful. Wonderful, Brittni. Yeah, great. Thanks so much. So now it works. I think every one of you can see my screen, right? Just give me a thumb up if you see my screen. So we have the 23rd meetup, and right now we are also streaming live to YouTube. So for all the people they are not able to join us, they can just watch it later on. And we didn't stream the beginning because it's just, let's say, our breakout sessions. So I would like to just say hello to everyone. And hello to Brittni. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm so happy to have you here. And I would like to just introduce you shortly, because I know you from HELEN Smart. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was always very impressed about your, let's say, presence on screen and also your natural appearance, like you are on video and also in normal life. And I know you also from the Level Up content, where you give your, let's say, all your content strategy, insights, how we can turn that into, can use that for our business, creating our business. So that's where I was looking a lot of your content, not only on YouTube. And that was always really impressive. And I invited you as well, not only because I'm very convinced about your expertise as a content strategist, and also you belong to the Design Sprint community, but also the people from the community, they wanted to, they mentioned you that they want to, have you here. So I'm really excited that it worked. So thanks so much. And just very shortly, so I will now hand over to you that I just give a short introduction into Design Sprint. So I'm also doing a little bit different introduction, not like I'm doing that normally, but very, very short. And then I will hand it over to you for your keynote and the workshop, and we make the exercise. And in the end, I already tell you, we have a little bit of time, and we will make at least 1 or 2 other breakout sessions. So to end that, I would just like to talk to you about the Design Sprint. And I'm always doing that, and I will just do that in a bit another way. And inspired, just this slide was inspired by Steph from his last keynote presentation. It's so helpful. The Design Sprint is one of the, I would say the best methods right now to help companies in our current situation and to be innovative and resilient as well. And my pivoting moment, and that's just something for me. So for me, using the design sprint it wasn't me anymore, the one who was responsible for developing the great ideas and the concepts. And this doesn't count only for me as a designer and not for the designers out there, but also for, let's say, product managers. They have the responsibility for these ideas. But with the design sprint, we are able to make everyone these, let's say, superheroes, and everyone can have these great ideas. And the design sprint is the process where you just get people to these ideas. And I would just guide you through a design sprint journey, what a team usually experience. And that's, they have a challenge, for example, overtaking the competitors. How can you avoid losses? How can you reinvent your businesses, services, products? And usually there's a challenge behind the challenge. And that's, for example, how might we succeed with limited risk of failure? That's still something which a lot of companies still, they don't like to failure. And how to get buy-in from stakeholders. This is a topic we will touch upon right now after that. And what is the right way? So a lot of these people, they are responsible for this idea, creating these projects. They are responsible for how do we do that? What method should we use? And what you need is a bold idea. You need always a lot of courage to do that, and an engaged team and a prototype to test. And that's the design sprint. We use the design sprint for, because you create a prototype, a high fidelity prototype, and you test it with your real users. And the result is you get budget, you get buy-in from stakeholders, and your team also develops a growth mindset and the momentum you can build on later on for the development. And what was from, let's say, the last meetups and all the interviews I took, one of the most impressive quotes was by HELEN, and she said that they are saving at TETRAPAK. They are saving between 6 to 12 months by running a 1-week design sprint. Imagine that. So for them, it's super efficient, and for a lot of other companies as well. Okay, and I would like to just give an impression how a prototype can look like, for example, this is a hardware prototype. That's just to give you an impression. I don't want to tell a lot of stories. This is, for example, how on the left side you see the concepts, and on the right side you see already a developed, let's say, a developed prototype. This is how a digital prototype can look like. So it's just to give you an impression what we are talking about. And very quickly, I would like to show you how agenda can look like. And this is from the Design Sprint 2.0. If you use a normal Design Sprint, it's just 1 day more, but usually you have 2 days. So this is what we use. 2 days, you have the client in the team, in the workshop. You are try to understand the challenge and the problems. You ideate, you find solutions, then you, on the next day, you decide on which solution you want to test, and you define how this solution can look like. So how should the prototype be? Then you make the prototype on 1 day, and you make the user test. And the last thing I want to show you, this is very important. Also, if the answer of the user in the end is, no, I don't want that, I don't understand it, I won't use it, still, this is a good result from a design sprint. Okay. And last but not least, I'm changed now as well our, let's say, bootcamp. I'm doing also the training and public bootcamps, and I developed a advanced design sprint masterclass where I combine the videos plus live sessions. So I just advanced my current Design Sprint bootcamp, but it's just German. So I will, you have also everything on the mural if you're interested, but I think I'm super proud of that. It's a new concept and it works very well. And now I would like to hand over to Brittni.
That unmute. All right. Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks for that lovely Design Sprint intro. I am also going to pull a Sabrina and share my screen. How about that? Just 1 second. Bum, ba-da-ba. Oh, hold on. I drum rolled too soon. Okay, you can see this. How about if I go like that? Everybody can see? Thumbs up? Nice, cool. So thanks again for having me. I'm really flattered that my name was brought up to come and talk to you guys because I think this is like the biggest design sprint meetup there is that exists in the whole world. So
thank you.
Awesome. So basically, since I think maybe a few of you know who I am, and maybe you know a little bit about my past, but I thought I would just introduce myself a little bit, just in case there are a few people who are like, who's Brittni anyway, right? So I'm Brittni, okay, relax. Just kidding. I am from Canada originally, but I live in Berlin, Germany. So it is my evening time, which is also similar to your time as well, most of you, although there were quite a few US people dropping in, that's cool. So basically, if I gave you a really brief overview of kind of what I do, or where I am now, basically, I moved to Berlin a while ago and I got stuck into this whole tech scene, innovation, all that kind of cool stuff that was going on, you know, it's really been blowing up in Berlin for quite some time, which is very cool. I got drawn in there and I was doing kind of video advertising for that sort of sector. A lot of startups, a lot of, yeah, kind of like funded startups was the niche. Then I discovered AJ Smart and the Design Sprint at the same time, and basically got really excited about it because it was this super beautiful, tangible way to test an idea very quickly. And it got to be this, it was this funny thing that when I learned about the Design Sprint, I was like, oh my God, so many of those video ads we made for these startups should have done a flippin' design sprint, because probably they wouldn't be making an advertisement for this startup that nobody needs. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I fell in love with the design sprint, and I, with a marketing background, kind of realized that, you know, AJ Smart was this sort of really, if you don't know this company, there's a lot of personality in this company. There's a, they're very loud, very boisterous, and you know, kind of realized along with John, the CEO, that we needed to get our message out there a little bit more and make a bit of a name for ourselves, because we realized that the design sprint was becoming more and more popular, obviously, and we wanted to basically be the ones who people found when they looked for design sprint. We wanted to be the kind of the place where people come to inform themselves. So I did that for the last 3 years. Basically, my job was to make AJ and Smart famous in that nice little niche, and to basically got to the point, kind of crazy, that we kind of said, and I mean, this is a hard thing to measure, but around like 85 to 90% of AJ and Smart's business could be attributed to the content and the sort of brand and awareness that we'd built around ourselves. So it's a very cool place to be. And since then, I've left AJ Smart, and now I'm consulting on that very thing. So I'm helping actually mostly B2B. I'm working a lot with digital agencies, innovation studios, and helping them kind of figure out what differentiates them and how they can just get out there a little bit more and sort of bridge that gap, right? Because there's what you're doing, then there's sales, and you know, the kind of marketing in between can get a little bit muddy and messy. So I'm trying to help them be a little bit more direct with their content and marketing efforts. So that's what I'm doing now. And today, I thought what I would do actually is kind of almost like go between like a case study, but also making some, hopefully, giving you some good advice around how to kind of build a brand and through content, so that you have a bit of an easier time selling. And you could use this if you are, you know, a studio, an agency that is, you know, looking to make it a bit easier to make sales. If you're a freelancer and you want to kind of build a bit of a personal brand, or even if you're internal at some big company like TETRAPAK. Is Helen here actually? Or is she might not be here. I don't know. Okay, anyways.
I don't know.
How could we know? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so if you're at a place like TETRAPAK and you're trying to get buy-in from stakeholders, I still believe that using content is one of the best ways. So I thought I would kind of just tell the story of how AJ and Smart got from, you know, no one knowing who the heck they are to this kind of, you know, somewhat well-known agency in this nice little design sprint niche and design, you know, also mostly just like product design and design sprints. So what I'm going to do is give you guys the 5 ingredients for content that sells. How do you like that? Don't know why there's a bomb in the bottom left corner. Is that a bomb? Yeah, it's a bomb. Maybe because once you actually apply these 5 ingredients, you're going to explode with sales. How's that? Pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, start from 1 to 5, and let's go through it, and I'll add some stories from AJ and Smart. I hope this is, the idea here is that it's inspiring for you, but also hopefully very valuable. That's the idea. So the first thing that is super important in your content is that you show your personality, okay? And this is something that I think a lot of people get wrong, is that they think that since they're putting content out on social media platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or wherever, that they have to be, you know, loud and goofy and funny and crazy and all those things. It's not actually true at all. What's most important is that you are authentic in, you know, the personality that you're putting out there. But it's so important to add a bit of personality to, you know, your writing or your videos or even like events, because the more that people get to know you, your brand, what you have to offer in a more human way, the more they're going to trust you, like you, and want to work with you. And that's something that I absolutely know to be true based on my experience with AJ and Smart. It was really interesting. People, when they came to work with us or they came to an event or anything, they already felt like they knew who we were. And so they were so relaxed. And so it was just so much easier to work together. It was also much easier to make a sale, I'll tell you that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, the second one is to be knowledgeable. And these are all going to sound really obvious, but it's when you get all 5 together that you can really, you know, count on it actually working. So basically, what I mean by knowledge is you want to make sure that you are known as an expert in your craft, whether it's design sprints or whatever other service or product you have on offer. You need to be an authority. And usually, you know, if you're an authority, that means that you are voicing your opinions and you are not afraid of telling people, you know, like it is. The other thing about that is, although, you know, the AJ and Smart brand was, in terms of personality, very goofy and very funny, and, you know, we were just always joking and always laughing, we also really knew our stuff. Like, everybody at that company knew exactly what they were talking about. They knew the answers to the tough questions. And that is so important in your content, to always show off how much you know, right? Not always, maybe. You can also be inquisitive and those kind of things, but it is important that people understand that you're an authority in the area that you're promoting yourself. Okay, number 3 is value. And I talk about this all the time as a content consultant, because I think that there are way too many businesses that are getting excited about using content for marketing purposes, and they are just excited about sharing what they do, who they are, their services, what their clients have said, all these testimonials. They're just like, yeah, that's our content, let's put it out there. But it doesn't do anything for you. And you'll see that when you put out you know, a testimonial video. you know, you might get some people who know you might be excited about it and they might comment and they might like it and they might, you know, do those things, but that is not going to expand your audience by any means. And it's just so important that you are thinking about your content in terms of 80 or 85% of the stuff you're putting out there should be really valuable for your audience. So that is like very important. And also, like, it was kind of cool at AJ and Smart, we gave so much away in our content, right? We had design sprint videos for every single exercise in the design sprint. We had videos on how to facilitate. We had videos on how to get the buy-in, how to sell the design sprint, what to do after the design sprint, before the design sprint, everything, right? And people used to always ask us, which it was just so interesting. People would always be like really thrown off by that. You know, they were like, whoa, like, are you sure that you want to just give this to us? Like, and they were almost like, I'll pay you for it. They're like getting their wallets out. But that's exactly what you want, because the more you put value out there, I mean, first of all, we all need a bit more value in terms of content on the internet, because there's a lot of crap out there. But the more you put valuable content out there, the more it's going to position you as the authority and the expert in the field, and the tougher it's going to be for your competitors to basically outpitch you on a client, right? If the client sees that you clearly know your stuff, you clearly have articles about all these different aspects of your industry, it's kind of a no-brainer for them. Why wouldn't they take the expert? So a couple of things that you can do here, or a couple of questions that I think you should always be asking yourself is, are people going to be surprised that you gave this piece of content away? And it's a really good sign if they are. If they like see this and they're like, oh my God, this is for free, that is an excellent sign that you're on the right path. And the second question, which is also just tied in, is if you put this piece of content out into the world, the World Wide Web, do you think that the audience that you care about would thank you for it? Would they feel like in the comments, they'd have to be like, God, this is great, thank you so much. If you can answer those two questions and say yes to both of them, then you are definitely doing something right. So that's, I can't communicate that or stress that point enough, that we really all need to focus more on value and leave out, the kind of garbage and, boasting about all of our efforts. Obviously, that's super important as well, to take the time to, congratulate your team on LinkedIn if you did a great job. All those things are super important, but they really should be about 15% of what you put out there. Okay, positioning. So this is an interesting one. And I mean, I could talk about this also for a very long time, but at AJ and Smart, this is actually kind of an interesting story. Hopefully you haven't heard it before, but at AJ and Smart, we positioned ourselves very closely with Jake Knapp. And I don't know how that looks on the outside, but I've heard from people that they were always like curious, like, were we friends with him? Like, how did that kind of come to be? Because once we positioned ourselves with Jake Knapp, that just sort of like really set us in the perfect spot to be the experts, the go-to people for the design sprint. Even Jake Knapp says it, So basically what happened was we did an exercise called the Lightning Decision Jam, which is it's like coming up with an idea and coming up with ideas and making decisions as a team. It's a really great exercise, actually. And I just had started at AJ and Smart. So this is like 3.5 years ago. And we decided that one of the things that we wanted to do was to align, like strategically, one of the things that we said was holding us back, because we did a bit of it's kind of like a retrospective, the LDJ, the Lightning Decision Jam, sorry. One of the things we decided was holding us back was the fact that we weren't yet seen as an authority in the design sprint community. So what we came up with an idea to combat that was to align with Jake Knapp, to meet Jake Knapp, to kind of tie ourselves to him somehow, not physically, obviously. I mean, John probably would have done that. But anyway, okay, sorry. So what we did was we wrote an article about this really cool project we did, a pro bono project for Share the Meal, which is a project with the UN. So we did it for free, and it was like for a really good cause. We wrote an article about how we use the design sprint to basically feed children in third world countries. So it was a pretty, it was a pretty cool experience and a very great use of his tool. And then we basically sent him the article and said, we just wanted to show this to you, and thank you so much for your method that you taught us. He responded back and he was like, this is so cool. I'd love to chat with you guys about this and ask you some questions about it. And then we responded back. We were like, oh, that's so funny, because we're going to be in San Francisco next month, as it turns out. Whereas, of course, we had no plans of being in San Francisco at that point, and I was just eagerly buying, flight tickets online at the time. So then we met him, and we, it began our relationship with him. But if you can find a way, the point of all of that big long story is, if you can find a way to align yourself with the appropriate people in the industry. Like, we shouldn't be so afraid of making content with other people and kind of, coming together, like doing what Sabrina's doing, right? Inviting people who could be seen as her competitors, to her meetup, and having these conversations, because all that does is draw you tighter, draw you closer to this authority, this place of authority. So I always recommend that you kind of try to strategically position yourself appropriately for whatever it is that you're selling, or whatever your service is, in order to just sort of create a sense of authority around yourself. So that is kind of a cool story that I think is really valuable. It was really valuable for me as well. And I know that it sounds like it's not really content focused, but Jake is now in a bunch of AJ and Smart content. He's very, it's kind of crazy how close that company has become to Jake now. So that's a piece of advice there. I can't see your comments coming in because it's a long story, but I see them pop up, but I can't actually read them because of, I think it's my computer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to read every single one of them later. Does that make sense, Sabrina?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there are, for example, comments like, not everyone is gonna stalk Jake in the parks.
Well, I mean.
And someone said, that was from Steph. And Yasid says, I know he's in Seattle. Anyone know the exact location? No.
Perfect. So I'm encouraging you guys to stalk Jake now. Excellent. Yeah. That's exactly what I wanted to get across. But what I said also, I should specify, I'm also talking about, like I said before, about things like what Sabrina, what you're doing as well, in kind of bringing the community together. And by being someone who does things like that, you're automatically seen as an expert and the go-to person. So in whatever way that you can do that, it's really a great big help. Okay, I have one last point, and then we can do this lovely exercise. The last thing that I think people miss a lot of the time in terms of branding and content is, once you have, this following and you have a bit of an audience, and when I say that, I don't mean, it doesn't have to be very much. It can be, a following. If you have a loyal following of 1,000, people on LinkedIn, that's really great. And that's, obviously that's not easy to get to. But what people miss, I think, sometimes is just delighting your community, your audience, and this can come in the form of a really valuable piece of content, or I think that maybe I don't know if this was Steph or not, but a Design Sprint mural template, that you give away for free. That's like a really delightful thing to do for your audience. Something, and it can be in content, it can be in this. I'm talking more like community building with this token here. But one thing that we did at AJ and Smart that we were very focused on, that was actually one of our OKRs, was how do we delight our community? How do we make them feel good? How do we, I mean, it sounds a bit like manipulative, but how do we make them love us? Right now they like us, they trust us, but how do we make them like a real fan? And so something that we would do, I mean, a couple of things, but one of the things that I absolutely loved, we had books all over the office, just tons and tons and tons of books everywhere. And when we had events at our office, we'd bring people in for events, a public event, for instance, and, there'd be a lot of AJ and Smart team members around, and we'd be talking to them and stuff. And if like a book came up in conversation, or if, you're standing next to the bookshelf and you started talking about something that we would do all the time is just like grab the book and just like give it to them. It's like, you take this, you just read it. It's awesome. And just keep it, and it's like this tiny thing that costs you, €9, one of these books, but it's such an impactful moment because it was unexpected. And doing that in your community, in certain ways is such a powerful way to, build. I mean, first of all, it will help you build a bigger community because those people are going to go and tell other people how they were really like touched by, this like very small gesture. And the other thing that is going to happen is that they will be on your side, for life, right? So they go to another company, they work their way up. Maybe because usually at these free events that we were holding, it was actually, I mean, not super low level, but it would be like mid to low level people. But getting in there is a really great strategic move. Several of our client opportunities came out of that. So I think that when it comes to branding, when it comes to content, when it comes to, putting yourself out there publicly, if you can build a bit of an audience because you're just giving people something that they actually need, and then delighting them after they become, a part of your community. That's just like, to me, that's the ultimate branding recipe. What did I call it? Ingredients. Yes, recipe. So that is the end of my little chat. But we're going to, Sabrina, do you want to dive straight into the exercise and then do Q&A? That's our plan, right?
Yeah, I think that would be great. And
Cool.
I would like to just ask a little question, just what popped in my mind, that when you were talking about these delight moments, when you think of, let's say, the virtual space and social media, what would be, you mentioned template. I think we cannot just always create templates.
Yeah.
But do you have some
ideas?
Some examples?
I think that in terms of, remotely, I mean, first of all, remote events like you're doing are excellent. I think that holding, you can still do so many things remotely, like and virtually, right? Like you can still send someone in the community your favorite book, or, send them a little small gift, like a little, design sprint pack where it has everything you need for your virtual design sprint, for instance, which would be, of course, less than you need for a full design sprint. But like I think that it's just about getting creative. I would really urge you to think about, if you're trying to like kind of delight the community, I would push you to think about who they are, who the audience is, and like who are your most important audience that you care about, and like try to sort of, take the user perspective and think about what would be fun for them, right? What would be interesting, for them. Maybe even giving away, 3 tickets to your next online design sprint training or something. Like that's really delightful, costs you nothing. I mean, obviously it's a space in the design sprint training, but like there are just so many ways that you can really impact people. And
for example, a ticket to the iToday, to the conference Steph is creating.
Yeah.
Or some Zoom backgrounds. Zoom backgrounds,
or a Zoom
designers.
background. Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, is it doesn't have to actually be very much, but it's about making people feel good, because I mean, what is the saying, right? Like people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel or something like that. And I think it's absolutely true. And that is one thing that we did really well at AJ and Smart, I think. We really wanted people to have a good feeling around us and feel like, that we cared and that we liked them and appreciated all of appreciated the community. So cool.
Wonderful.
So shall I move into the exercise?
Yeah, great. Yeah. Wonderful.
Cool. So this is an exercise that I made up. It's basically a note and vote, and you probably very familiar with it if you were familiar with the Design Sprint. It's a note and vote, but it's centered around content. And this is something, I do this a lot with my clients, but more kind of expanded with a little bit more kind of strategy involved, talking more about their kind of features and benefits and all that kind of stuff beforehand. But this is the simple version. This is the version that I use for myself when I'm like, I need to refresh my content here. Let's see what I can come up with. So it's called my content idea generator, Brittni's content idea generator. This is the quick version though, just so you know. So what we're going to do, how we're going to do this is, if you have, I'm imagining Design Sprint folks might have some Post-its on hand. So if you don't, you can just do this in a note on your laptop or whatever, but it's kind of fun to do with Post-its. So what I'm going to get you to do is, first step, and Sabrina's going to play music after I explain the exercise, right, Sabrina?
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. I thought you said you were going to do that.
You know what will happen when I play music? I just realized that we have problems on YouTube because we are live streaming on YouTube. So that's a problem.
Cool. Let's not do music. Something? You can sing something. Quiet. Okay. I'll sing something, but not the whole time. Okay. So the first step.
I can try playing something, and let's see if we get problems or not. I
don't want you to ruin your YouTube situation.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe not.
The first thing I want you to do, the first step of the exercise, is that I'd like you to think about your audience, okay? Your audiences. So think about what it is the product that you're offering, the services, the people that you are interacting with on a daily basis in your business. So this doesn't have to be the person who signs the check or who signs the offer or whatever, or who makes the final call, but it should be the people that you are interacting with. So I want you to list all of them. And when I say list them, I mean not their actual names, but list like their positions or their job titles. So kind of segment them by their positions. And after you do that, so usually when I do this, I'll have like 8 to 10 audiences, maybe a little bit less. So I want you to write all of them down, and then we're going to pick our top 3 audiences. So first, write them all down, and let's start now. I'm going to give you 1 minute. How do you like that?
Ooh, 1 minute.
Oh, baby, 1 minute.
And do we share that? So immediately after that?
We're not yet. No, we're going to share out at the end because it's a pretty short exercise. Okay. So we're going to do a little share out at the end. So 1 minute, I'm counting down. Ooh.
So we can continue talking.
Yes.
Brittni, and all the audience, because when I'm doing exercises, I don't like if someone talks, but you can just unmute us. Yes, mute us. Sorry, unmute. Mute us.
I have these funny earphones or headphones because the Apple ones fall out of my ears.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, mine stick very well.
I know. Same with my partner as well. He's totally fine with them. Everybody I talk to loves them. They fall straight out of my ears, no matter the size, no matter. I even got these extra extensions, and they still don't work. So now I have these weird. Oh, time's up. Time's up, everybody.
I hope that everybody worked. I saw some faces looking around.
Yeah. Cool. So just as long as you have like most of the audiences, probably you'll get your most important ones out first. But now what I want you to do is, if you have Post-its, grab the top 3 audiences. And when I say your top 3, What I mean is the people that you are building the closest relationships with. So these are people who you really feel like in your work, you're impacting the most. So I want to know the top 3, and I want you to pull those guys out and just have them on the side. If you have Post-its, then you can line up your Post-its sort of like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know
And
maybe
I would like to add something to that, because
sure.
maybe that sounds like if you are a freelancer, that's an excellent exercise. But also if you are employee, you also have like audiences. And for example, you have these stakeholders, maybe let's say a certain team, or, you know, some groups in the company. So that works as well.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, Sabrina. So if you pick your top 3 audiences and just take those out, kind of separate them. The next thing that we want to think about are, for each of those audiences, what are their biggest challenges professionally? And when we think about their challenges, like, I mean, if you are an agency or a freelancer, I don't want you to list like the challenges that they come to you with, you know, in order for you to deliver a design sprint or a different kind of service. I'm talking a little more granular, a little bit smaller than that. So a really interesting, you know, if you're in a company, maybe one of the challenges that might come out of one of your audiences is that they really have a hard time getting buy-in for a design sprint. They're trying to get a design sprint going, but they can't seem to get buy-in from their stakeholders. So that is a challenge that makes sense. So it's like, it makes the challenges that you're talking about, they make sense to the audience, but also sort of to your industry and what you do in general. So think about the fact that you'll maybe be trying to help them with this challenge. So what I'd like you to do is write down one challenge for each audience. So we'll have 3 challenges, one challenge for each of the most important audiences. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes. That might be a bit long, but I'm going to do it. 3 minutes is maybe not long, because that's a minute a challenge. So 3 minutes starts now. You can mute us if you don't want to listen to us chattering. Go ahead. Cool.
Yeah, I really like this exercise.
You've done it before, right, Sabrina?
Yes.
Or not? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did it, and I think it's also very valuable. I could do that right now, but I just cannot concentrate. Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you.
but it's very valuable, and I think it's also very important to do that on a regular basis, because it depends on wherever you are in your process.
Yes.
That changes, and you learn. So what for me, for example, it's not only about the roles. I was always thinking of, let's say, innovation managers or product managers, or, you know, but I think it's also not about a certain role, but it can be also about just a challenge, you know, that there are people, they have a certain behavior, or they have a certain goal in their life. And it's not only a certain role where you can just frame that in a role.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get. You can almost like skip the role, because you like, I mean, when I do this with clients, a lot of the time we will have we'll have our top 3 audiences, but we come up with lots of challenges, and the challenges will sometimes overlap, right? There'll be similar challenges across the board for all of these people. And so that's kind of just sort of skipping that step, right? And just being like, oh, this challenge, I know I've talked to so many people in different roles, and this is clearly a challenge, a popular challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that behind these, let's say, more superficial challenges, there are always like hidden challenges, like maybe also personal challenges. So there's an obvious challenge, and then there's something maybe also personal challenge behind that.
Yeah. So I think some of the time, like, it depends on, you know, what kind of business you're running and what you're sort of offering. But like when I was at AJ and Smart, I would run these workshops with like internally, just for us to come up with really great content ideas. And some of the time, you know, it would be the fact that, you know, the people that we're talking to, our audiences, are wanting a raise, or they want, you know, a new position, or they want to step up their career or whatever. So it can be absolutely very personal. And I think the more personal you can get, potentially the better for these.
Yeah, you're right.
5 more seconds. Whoa, baby.
I hope you muted us.
Yeah, we've been chatting. All right, great. So that part is done. So you should now have 3 audiences and 3 challenges. Maybe they're distinctive, maybe they're very specific to that audience, or maybe like Sabrina and I were talking, if you didn't hear us, they could be similar across those audiences depending, and that's also okay. So the last step is, what I want you to think about is look at these challenges and try to come up with a way that you could help this audience with this challenge, from what you know, from what you're good at, what you're able to add for this person. So maybe you can't solve the challenge for them, but for instance, if a stakeholder, or if one of your audiences had a really hard time getting stakeholder buy-in, maybe what you would offer, what you would make is an article of 3 ways to get stakeholder buy-in internally for a design sprint, right? So it's definitely, you can definitely come up with really tangible and simple ways to help your audience with this challenge. And that's what I want you to do here. So don't think too crazy big. I want you to kind of think pretty, think like of maybe an article, maybe it's a slide deck, maybe it is a short video, or maybe it's like one of those cool Instagram carousels. But just how can you help your audience with this challenge? So we're going to do another 3 minutes, and I want you to come up with just sort of the idea, and you don't have to get into too much detail with it, but just sort of, maybe it's, I'm going to write an article about 3 ways to help get stakeholder buy-in, something like that. So I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock. Did that make sense, Sabrina? Do you think that was clear?
Yeah, wonderful.
Great. 3 minutes.
And please mute us. We will just continue talking.
We'll just continue talking. Yeah.
Instead of singing, I think.
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah.
I don't know how you
right.
can sing, how you sing. Maybe.
No, it's not good, Sabrina.
But you're a comedian. You're a comedian, so I think you can sing.
Yeah. I can project my voice.
Maybe you can pretend to sing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, my partner always says that I have a knack for music. So I'm very good at, I remember lyrics very, very easily, and the tunes, so I always know how a song goes. But yeah, other than that, you don't want to hear me sing, that's for sure. Anyway.
Okay, we can talk.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, and I'm curious what people maybe share with us. So I hope that some will share their challenges or ideas. Yeah. And I think it's kind of obvious sometimes. So when I'm doing these kind of exercises, sometimes it's so obvious that it's like, oh yes, I know that, but it's just inside of me. Yes. And I cannot get it out, or it's just hidden somewhere, or it's just overlapped, or let's say other things are more important and not so obvious. And so that's very valuable to map it out and write it on Post-its. And
absolutely, it's really about getting it out of your head. Of course it's in your brain, you know your audience, you know what their challenges are, and you know how you could help them, because you probably get yourself into these conversations where you're talking to someone, they're like, well, I just friggin' can't get my manager to, or my CEO to sign off on a design sprint. And then you start talking to them and you're like, well, here's what, would probably help. And so the stuff, it's just about taking the time, which is really cool that everybody here is really taking the time to, dive a little bit deeper and kind of commit to this kind of thing, because that's going to make the difference for sure.
And it's also not only about design sprints. So I assume that whoever is running design sprints, they are also doing other kinds of workshops. Yeah. Smaller workshops, LDJs, strategy stuff. So whatever you're using, and I think for many people in companies, it's quite difficult to make a design sprint. So I think it's very easy to do a small workshop. So just skip a meeting, do a workshop. And already that is something of value. And so I think it's also sometimes if you do a little bit a bigger workshop, you need also buy-in for that.
Absolutely. Time is up, everybody.
Oh.
Cool. So I'm going to skip the next step just because of time. And I think it would be more valuable. You guys can do this kind of after the workshop. But the next thing I would do is just to make it really tangible, I would create a step for myself, or 3 steps for myself on how I'm going to actually produce this content. You know, I need to write it, I need to format it, and I need to distribute it, whatever. But make sure that it's super simple for yourself, just to make sure that it actually gets done. So that's just something that I do because I'm a procrastinator. And if I don't just give myself some really clear steps, it's probably not going to happen. So I would really encourage you guys to do that at the end, or even just right now briefly. But that is all from me. I'm done. But oh yeah, we want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear if anyone would like to share either the challenges that they come up with, or even like, well, it would be great actually to hear one audience, one challenge, and the solution. Just very quickly, kind of try to give it point form. Would anybody like to do that? I'm going to stop sharing my screen, I think. Hold on here.
So who is the volunteer? And I would like to add something to your point 4, and that's get someone who gets you accountable. So get someone who you just talk to and you say, okay, I will do that. And you have someone and he will just,
I think someone named Anastasia put up her hand. Could I be right?
Yeah,
Anastasia?
you are.
Wonderful.
You are. Shall we?
There you are.
Here I am.
Cool.
Shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Okay,
wonderful.
Let's go. So I'm a meeting facilitator to be. So as of now, I'm an intern. And what I do is my mission is to introduce this profession here in the Middle East. I'm based in Dubai. Nobody knows anything about this profession. Europe and the Middle East live different lives. And speaking about the value as well. However, so here is what I put. My plan is to be more diverse and to serve small and medium enterprise here and non-profits because it's fulfilling for me, and startups. So those are my 3 audiences. All of them are having similar challenge, which is nobody knows, sorry if I can say shit, about what meeting facilitator is, and they have 0 idea on how they can help them in life. So design sprints for them is a different plan. So for me, the challenges for all 3 audiences are overlapping, is to actually introduce the profession here in this region and to let them know what do we do and how they can benefit. I also, the challenge also is to let them recognize the problem or the challenge that they might have in an organization that they are not willing to share, because everything is extremely perfect, but no sales, but everything is perfect as usual. So, and therefore, and what else? And, oh yeah, and to give them some point of reference so they can understand how it's actually happening in North America and in Europe. So they can kind of maybe look at some examples and see, okay, why not?
Yes, that's fabulous. The examples is great. Like a case study goes such a long way. And if you can give people tangible examples where you show an actual challenge and then what happened through this sprint or whatever it is, it's just, game changer. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing, Anastasia.
Yeah, thank you, Anastasia. Who's next?
That's great.
And nobody's reading case studies, just to let you know. In the Middle East, it's all social media, and Dubai particularly. So if I don't serve that in extremely entertaining way, and I don't stand on my hands and on my head and on my hands and telling them the story, they are not freaking interested. It's not Europe. So, the things here are like bombastic.
Right.
But I will do case of study when I'll be hanging on my lamp. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say, like, there is a great way, there are entertaining ways to create case studies, and that's okay if it's a social media, you know, if it's like a lot of pictures and not a lot of words, but it's very kind of fun. That's actually the ideal situation. So definitely, I would encourage you to do that. That sounds awesome. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to share?
I see here Giovanna. She unmuted herself. Giovanna, do you want to share? No, I don't hear anything. Come on.
One more. Let's
you
get
can
one
also
more.
share one
Steph,
thing.
How about you? How about you, Steph? I'm putting you on the,
Gente, não sabia que iam estar
and
nesse
your
time.
son can also contribute.
Hey, Brittni. Yeah, I was just wondering, what's your technique to sell that one?
Giovanna. She unmuted herself. Oops.
Oh,
What's
was
that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, Steph. What were you saying?
Yeah, so my question was like, what's your recipe to sell not one sprint, but multiple sprint to the client?
What's my recipe to sell multiple sprints? Well, okay, so I actually would be more in line with, like my strategy would actually be to sell one and see, and like, if you could deliver on that first sprint and you show them how powerful it can be and how, you know, how much time and money and effort that they're saving, I think that's the flippin' best way to sell more sprints. I also am not a believer in just, you know, okay, let's sell this client a massive bunch of sprints, and then you find out that you actually don't enjoy working together. Like, I think that's also something to consider, because for me, I know in my experience that has happened, and it's not a fun place to be as a, you know, business owner as well, right? And as, you know, someone leading this. So I don't know if I necessarily have a secret sauce to selling more than one at a time, other than maybe giving a package discount. That's pretty lame though. But I think that, yeah, that's something that I would consider is delivering on what you promise is the best way to make more sales. It's a lame answer. I'm so sorry, Steph. Hope
No,
that's not disappointing.
No,
Okay.
no.
Cool. All right.
So someone wants to share? Also, if you just want to share just one example.
I'd love to hear an example from the exercise that we did, the little workshop. Anybody?
Please do Brittni that favor.
Yeah,
Akash?
it's doing me a personal favor. Look at this face.
Oh, Robin.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So hi, yes, I'd like to share one of the.
Hi, Robin.
Hey, Brittni, good to see you. And yeah, I got connected with you guys at AJ and Smart, so loved all the stuff you were doing, and I was inspired. So thank you for your
Cool.
presence here. Yeah, for me, it's actually working with charities here in downtown Toronto, and part of this
Canadian.
exercise,
Sorry.
yeah. So part of the exercise has been for me is, in terms of the audience, really is as you made us walk through the exercise, was, you know, the CEOs and the leaders that are dealing with the social impact and the benefit of their services to support both the shelters as well as the food banks, the support staff that provide and execute against their plans, and then of course the end consumer that comes for their daily, either their brown bagging meals or their meals inside, and to a capacity number of shelter within the building on a regular basis, and they're open 24/7. So since the COVID issue, trying to reach out to them and really learning, especially from perspective of not being in technology as I was previously, got locked into the LDJ, as you described it, the lightning decision jam. So trying to think about them as far as their challenges of how do I continue to serve when it's a lot less capacity right now, but the need is just as big,
Yeah.
if not more, in terms of serving them socially for just the basic human needs. And then how can I help them? I think part of it was that really trying to offer them something through the LDJ process, as far as using, you know, just touching on collaboration, the tools, but also trying to
Yes.
think about the design sprint as it could apply here to getting them to think differently, making decisions, resourcing differently until things may or may not get back to normal at some kind of timeline in the future. But that's kind of my contribution. And then to your last suggestion on point 4, which is to create a 3-step development. So what can I do to sort of give them something that's, you know, easy, 1-page, 2-pager to say, here's what you could implement, and here's how I could help as my contribution, not necessarily right now to charge for, but it would give me practice, etc. So anyways, there you go.
Absolutely. It would be really great to ensure that whatever this, like I always find content to be really powerful if it's able to be distributed widely. So these problems that these people are facing are very real problems, and for a lot of different people, very similar issues. So if you're able to create something like a, you know, downloadable, where it's like, here are some tools and resources for like remote work in this specific industry, that would be super powerful. And, you know, then if they had any questions down the line about how they can, you know, whatever, if they're looking for someone to help them in certain ways, you'll be someone that they think of because you gave them this super valuable piece of content or information. So it's that's a really great idea. And I would totally encourage you to do that, to make it happen. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Cool.
you, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to hear from you,
Thanks.
Robin. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. So, yeah, we have, let's say, officially another 10 minutes, but I'm open to just leave that a bit open longer, so that we can make a breakout session, because there are still some questions and we didn't answer. Let's say, yeah, we answered Steph's question, but here are some questions on the board, and I would just like to ask you, Brittni, there's something like, which channel's website do you recommend to distribute content?
Yeah, so this is a very difficult question to answer, because it depends a lot on your goals, your industry. A really simple response to this is I would always choose my platform or my channel based on 2 things. One is where my audience is. So, you know, you have to figure that out. Probably you have an inkling just based on, you know, you talking to people in your network. So where your audience is. And the second thing is, I would not forget that you should also kind of enjoy this platform at least a little bit. So I really discourage people from choosing a platform that they despise to, you know, start engaging on with their audience, because you're just, it's going to be so much more effort for you. It should be a place where you also kind of enjoy being there, or you find it, you know, interesting. Like, I wouldn't advise someone who hates Facebook to then start being like, all right, I'm just putting out content on Facebook. Like, what a nightmare, right? Life should be more fun than that. So yeah, it's this balance for sure. But first is where your audience is, and second is where you can actually, yeah, spend some time.
Thanks so much for answering that. And there's another one. When selling, do you believe in anchoring, like Christo is preaching, and Michael Janda disagree? And I'm curious what you do, what you consult. And this question is from Martin.
It's from me. Hello.
Hey, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
Look at you and your professional setup. Holy.
Yeah,
Best
well,
audio out of all of us.
Chris Do is inspiring, you know.
Yeah, Chris, you basically, you are our Chris Do for the evening.
I'm not yet, but I'm getting there.
You're right. Cool.
I'm setting up my own sort of future concept here in the Netherlands. But
yeah.
Sabrina just read my question. I put some question on the board. First of all, Brittni, thanks a lot. Sabrina, thanks a lot for this meetup. I love you both in your content. But let's go to the question, because it's
let's
really,
get to the question.
It's really something that is on my mind for months now. I quit my job at an agency right before the lockdown and started my own business, and it goes crazy right now. But this thing, yeah, it's really nice. But this thing is really bugging me, because some people say, you know, when selling when selling big things, go anchoring, because when people on the other side of the table don't know what the value of the thing that you offer is, they will never ask answer the question of what's your budget. They don't say what their budget is because they can estimate the value of what you offer. And then Chris Do says, drop an anchor and don't be ashamed of a high anchor because you know what you are worth it. But that's tricky.
Easier said than done.
Exactly, and I've done it. I've done it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I like the 5-step sales strategy of Michael Janda. You know him, maybe?
I know him, but I don't know what this strategy is.
He has 5 questions of how to find out client's budget, and if they don't answer the first question, you go to the second and all the way up to the 5th. And when they don't answer the 5 questions, then you should drop an anchor. That's his moment. So,
okay, interesting.
It's interesting. But what do you do? What do you consult and what do you do?
So I consult on content strategy. So I do 2 things. I help B2B companies basically build a strategy around their branding and content efforts. And then I also love facilitating workshops and things like that. So I'm also I'll occasionally, if the project is right, I'll do a facilitation. It's just sort of like this fun thing. They
ask you to do a facilitation workshop, but what do you do then? Do you say, this is my price, or do you ask someone?
And so I say, here is my facilitation day rate. And I say, this is my facilitation day rate. And, depending on the project, I can, if that doesn't scare you, then let's talk. And then once they tell me more about the project, then I can give them an idea of how many days, prep, how many days, obviously facilitating this probably whatever, and how many days in post workshop work. So I don't even know if this is the right thing to do. I'm also new to consulting, so I'm not a specialist in pricing by any means, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. I am gauging on, so if a really big company comes to me, then my prices, they go up. They go up, okay?
That's reasonable.
That's what you have to do, right? And the only reason, or the big reason is, and I've learned this very fast, is that the big companies take about a flipping year and a half to pay you. So you better make it worth your time. And you're probably going to have to badger them with emails to get a payment to come to your bank account. That's been my experience as well. And they're just usually more effort in general. There's more hoops to jump through. There's usually more prep. There's more calls. Everything's more on that. So I definitely want to make it worth my time. Who I like working with are, and I will give very kind of reasonable pricing to them, but also it has to make me excited about the work that I'm going to do. Are these kind of sort of mid-sized agencies. They are fun to work with. They're they're eager to get things going and get things happening fast. I love that. And they are not that that's not the only important thing, but they pay you very fast. And it's there's no muss or fuss, they're just you delivered, I'm paying you, and I just love, that's what I love. And they're also very, I feel like you can make more change, and that's sort of why I like working with those kind of companies.
That's my experience so far too. I'm working with a couple of small agencies, and they pay you instantly because they love you and they trust you. But they don't. That's not the place where you can make some, I don't know, big value to clients that don't know you yet. But hey, what's the fun of work? It's not only the money, it's also the work and the people.
Exactly. So if I'm excited about a job and I can feel that there's not a lot of budget here, then I'm doing it for not very much money. That's fine.
Thanks a lot, Brittni.
Hey, thanks so much for your question. I mean,
I don't want to, I would love to chat with you more, but there are more people here.
That's right. Yeah, let's go back.
Thanks, Martin.
No worries.
Thanks, Martin. I also see in the chat, so we have a lot of wisdom here in the whole group, and I just would like to invite you, put everything, whatever you have as links. I see here Abel mentioned Sandy Lamb's YouTube. So she repurposed, I think that was, Sandy, please correct me, that was from Gary Vee, how to re-elaborate, let's say, a piece of content into a lot of channels and a lot of small pieces. I think that's also very valuable. So please, if you have something, just mention, put it on the mural board. And I also see that, Martin, you say Margriet, and Robert says, they say hi.
Yeah, I was just chatting them on the phone, and they
okay,
here,
so
unfortunately,
hi back.
they say hi.
Hi
they love you too.
And I should say hi from Steve to Brittni, Stefan, Sarah's husband.
Oh, that's funny. Hello, Steve.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
funny.
So we exchanged all our highs.
Yeah, perfect.
There are other questions, so I just pick one. 5 points you mentioned are incredibly simple, yet no one except you do them right. What is your secret?
I think it's just identifying that these are important things. I think everybody knows that these things need to happen or that these things should be happening, but actually identifying and putting out goals around these key factors is what's going to make the difference. So we actually at AJ and Smart, one of our goals was in the kind of delight category was actually to get within, it was like, I think we did it, it was quarterly because we were doing OKRs. So one of the OKRs for the quarter was to get three, this is so silly, it sounds so terrible, but 3 grand gestures from our community. So we kind of distinguished a grand gesture as someone from the community going out of their way to do something to show, you know, their gratitude or whatever. So we got like people sending us handwritten letters to the office, that would be a grand gesture. Or if people made a video and they like talked about us, or they made a video and sent it to us as an application, that was a grand gesture, you know? So we were always working to get those things. And I think making that tangible is what makes you able to actually deliver those things. Because you're right, people do know that they're important. They are simple, but it's if you don't have a goal, what is the thing? If you don't have a goal, you don't have a chance or whatever.
Yeah, I think maybe it's also to focus on really the things. So when you say these are the 5 points, we just have to do it. Okay, so just remember what Brittni told us and just do that. Then you are also one of these people, they do it right. I have another one, which I think is very, very valuable for a lot of people in the audience. So that's what's your advice to a team?
It's a video.
Okay, so
we're done. Sorry, please continue talking.
So
I'm sorry
what's your advice to a team of 3 people that literally runs on a thread with time and resources to create valuable content? For example, how to convince my CEO to clear out time. Yeah. So what should you do if you don't have time to do it?
Yeah, so this is, of course, a very a valid question, and I've run into this many times. So a couple of things. One thing that I think people can do a little bit better if you're really running low on time is using making content like a part of your day, if that makes sense. So it's like if I am learning a new tool, for instance, I'll always grab Instagram stories and I'll just say, hey, I'm learning this new tool. I find it really interesting because this and that, whatever. And people love it, right? Because they're like, oh, that looks like an awesome tool, whatever. And it's a small thing, so easy for me to do. It takes 30 seconds. It's just the fact that it's on my brain to do it makes the difference. Okay, so things like that, incorporating it into your day is important. Okay, but of course, writing an article or creating a video is very difficult to just incorporate in part of your day. So in those instances, what I like to do is time box definitely big fan of time boxing. If you're in this group, obviously you are as well, because the thing is, when you're creating content for an industry that you know really well, is that you know so much about it. It's so hard, and everything takes so much time because you're wanting to get every little last piece of information out into an article or in a video. So what I really encourage people to do is time box and really think about like, what is the valuable information? You know, you can even like, I mean, you can get creative with this too, right? Like maybe let's say Friday morning is your content morning. You give 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever it is on Friday mornings, and maybe make that a part of the content production itself. So you're like, you know, if I were to do that, maybe I would like have my phone out and I'm doing a live or something, right? And the live is the piece of content, but it's also incorporating the fact that I'm like, okay, I've got 1 hour and this is what I'm going to do, you know, for this hour. So I know that's kind of a little bit convoluted and not super clear, but the idea is get like section time out of your week. You have to time box it, keep it simple. And, you know, start small. Don't give yourself this massive overloaded, you know, strategy and plan if you don't have a full-time content person to execute it. It's so funny to me that that people just often underestimate the amount of time that content takes to produce and to distribute and all that stuff. Like it takes a long time. So give yourself a bit of a break. Start small, be realistic, and yeah, get creative with what you're actually executing on. You know, I myself as a content person also have a hard time being like, oh gosh, when am I going to make the content this week? When am I going to actually make my own content? So I decided, instead of, because I would be like shooting videos and then editing videos and then blah, and it's like, I don't have time for that. I decided that what I'm going to do now, and I just started this last week, so here you go, is I'm going to make videos. I'm going to shoot on my phone, super simple, like a 5-minute video where I give a certain tip or answer a certain question about content strategy, or, you know, maybe it even is about facilitation or workshops, but I'm not going to edit it, and I'm just going to upload it straight to Instagram. And it's, you know, it could be better if I edited it. It could be, you know, all of these things, but if I don't do that, it's not going to get out there. So you need to figure out what is holding you back from putting it out there, and just eliminate that from your process.
So better get something out than nothing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But make sure it's still valuable. Don't put garbage out there. Nothing worse than garbage on the internet. Yeah. So
yeah, we have still some questions, but maybe if we can try to just answer some of them. And there's also a question to me, so I will answer that.
Quick fire. Perfect.
Quick fire. Okay.
I just meant like we can do really fast. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, but before we do that, so because I already had another plan, I thought we just can write it there to other post-its. Very quick perfect. Answer, because I wanted to say happy birthday to Tessa, but I think she's not here anymore. Tessa,
yes, she's
doing. Oh, you are. Because you're not under Tessa. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's such a great day for Meetup birthday. I think.
Yeah. Let's look for the next birthday, and then we make another meetup. And what I would like to tell you as well. So again, the I Today, which Steph is organizing, the August 20. I also put it again on the board. So please join. This will be incredible. It's about design sprints and business. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for that. It's really, really cool. Yeah, please come. It's going to be amazing.
It will be amazing for sure.
Be there too.
Yeah.
Sorry about the cat.
That's funny. And I have to announce something else. So there are some people in the community, and Jeroen, you are here. We will organize a teenager camp, a virtual camp, and that's made with Design Sprint. I would say Design Sprint-ish method. So it's a process, 2 weeks. 8 days, 2 hours a day for teenagers, and we want to make them, they should think the future, and we want to support them to experience how it is to work in this kind of collaboration workshops. And this will be amazing. And I also put a link on the board as well. Jeroen, you want to say 30 seconds, something?
No, I think, let's say, what's amazing, let's say, in this whole design sprint community, whether you're a practitioner, you're a beginner, or actually you're just a passionate follower of it, I think it's amazing to see what teenagers can do. And let's say to really create an event where we can unlock their creativity and help them to shape the future in whatever form or shape that is I feel also a privilege that we can do that with people from the community. So I would only invite everybody to enroll his own teenager, of course, if he or she doesn't have anything to do in August. But the overwhelming enthusiasm out of the facilitator community that we have received already, and we don't talk about 10 people, but almost, let's say, 50, 60 people that volunteered to facilitate with us, is amazing. So thank you for that already.
Yeah, so whoever has teenagers, and that's between 14 and 19 years old. So if you have these kids, just enroll them. It will be amazing. And if you know someone in your family or friends, just tell them about that. It's an amazing experience for them. We already tested that. So it's amazing what they are able to think, how they are able to reflect. So it will be great. Okay, so I would like to make another breakout session with you guys. And yeah, thank you so much, Brittni. We could talk for hours, and I think that was so valuable, really valuable, because you make some really tangible exercises and this step-by-step process. That's amazing. I think everyone benefit from that in the community. And I'm already looking for a lot of nice posts after that, because this is already your first step.
Exactly. That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was really such a pleasure, you guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks,
yeah,
Sabrina.
thank you.
Really
thank
lovely.
you. I would just love to make another hour, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I gotta eat. Girls gotta eat, you know, and drink wine probably as well.
Yeah, drink wine. Okay, yeah, let's drink wine. So let's make another 5 minutes of breakout session, and then we will close, because it's already 10 past the hour. And I thank you all. So everyone who is still here, I know that some, I see Argentina as well. Sabrina. Oh, great. Okay, so let's do another breakout session, and I just say goodbye and thanks so much for attending. Thanks to Brittni. We will also just share that, put everything on the board, and yeah, have a nice day. Have some nice weeks until we see each other in August. I have to announce everything, but yeah, I will do something in August as well. Okay, and I just say, Katharina, you start the breakout sessions. So I think it already started. So step by step, everyone will be put into a breakout session. And then we see each other again after 5 minutes, but then we will close. I think I just cut. I will stay here. So if there's someone in room 6, you can move them to somewhere else. I will just stay here. Huh? Okay, good. Okay, because there are always people, they won't be able to join a breakout session. I don't know. Okay, then you can also stop the recording or the streaming. And I say just goodbye to everyone. See you in the breakout session. See you next time.